Hi, good to see you, lovely to see you. Hello, thank you for the wave. Thank you for the wave. Lovely to see you. It's been a long time. I wonder how you're doing. Wonder how you're doing. A really difficult time it's been, and still is, and it's ongoing. And I thought it'd be really helpful to just get together and say hi. Hi, Steph. That's a lovely comment. Thank you. I'm glad it helped. So I've had a number of questions, and I'm going to get going because I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Lovely to see you. I'm going to get going because I've learnt previously that if I don't get going, the time just runs out and is gone. Hi, Patty. Hello. Let's start with the first question that I was asked, which was, how do we get over not feeling good enough? What an incredibly difficult question, or rather not a difficult question so much as something that's really difficult to face and to manage. And so here are some thoughts about not feeling good enough. And let's start with how we learn to not feel good enough. It's very subtle, and it usually goes back to, as everything does, and this is all said without any blame or accusation. It's simply a fact. It goes back to the way that we've learned to see ourselves in relation to the world, and in particularly to our parents and our family. And when I work with people who don't feel good enough, there's nearly always a particular set of circumstances that lead to that. Oh, Patty, you bought my book. Arrived. Enjoy. Great to know. Thank you. Enjoy. So the circumstances are that we haven't really, as a child, felt heard or felt seen. We have felt invisible, and we've often felt that we were without help. Now, that's really subtle, because usually when I talk about that, people say, no, I had a wonderful childhood and my parents couldn't have given me more. They couldn't have been more attentive. They couldn't have supported me more. And all of that will be true. All of that will be true. But what I usually find is that as a child, if we don't feel good enough as an adult, we have usually grown up learning that if we don't do what other people want us to do, if we don't seek other people's approval, and initially, of course, that's our parents and our family, then there's something wrong with us. If we're different, if we don't quite hold the same views, if we don't quite want to do the same things in the same way, then we're met with disapproval. It's often very subtle. Clients often talk about it making parents sad, making parents unhappy, not necessarily being told off, not necessarily being judged, but just a sense of not having quite got it right. And that is such a difficult and subtle feeling to explore and try to get to the bottom of. So let's say it again. When we don't feel good enough, it's usually because we have learned that we disappoint, that we are not, in our actions or the way that we think or speak, we're not actually getting our parents' approval. And so we grow up feeling that we make people sad, that we disappoint people, that we forever let people down, and that equals not good enough. But actually the source of it is not good enough for one or two people. Not good enough for one or two people who have usually a very particular and specific view of the world and how people should think, what people should believe, and how people should behave. And we can have the most loving parents. We can have the most loving parents. Parents who would be mortified if they ever understood that rigidity and inflexibility and that particular way of focusing on a child's behaviour or beliefs or what they say or what they do somehow disappoints them or makes them sad if they don't meet their expectations. So that feeling of not being good enough is such a subtle feeling, but that's where it comes from. And I know that's where it comes from so often because I have worked for 30 years and I have met so many people who struggle with that particular feeling inside them. How do we start to unpick it? That's the question, isn't it? How do we start to unpick it? We start to unpick it because we start to unpick it by saying those beliefs that I grew up with, those beliefs that I was taught, they actually are very specific beliefs that belong to particular people, two people, or two or three people, or a small amount of people, a small number of people who held particular views as I grew up. And because I differ, it doesn't mean that I'm not good enough. It simply means that I am different. It simply means that I am my own person. And if I don't think like somebody else, it isn't a value judgment on me as to whether I'm good enough or not. It's simply that we differ, and we are allowed to differ. And the important thing is that I'm true to myself. I know what I believe and what I think, and I stand by that. And when we stand by that, when we do begin to think, the most important thing is not to seek other people's approval, not to please other people, because then I'm so often untrue to myself, and then I feel not good enough in a different way all over again. I feel not good enough because I know that what I'm saying and appearing to feel or appearing to believe is not actually what I truly believe. And so we feel not good enough, we feel inauthentic, we feel false, we feel like a sham. And that is another form of not feeling good enough, or the source of not feeling good enough. And so two sources of not feeling good enough. One, that we feel we've made our parents or our family disappointed or sad because we don't fit their model of how we should be, and therefore we carry inside us an awful sick sense of unworthiness and having let people down or disappointed people. And the second source of not feeling good enough is when we're pretending to the world. When we're pretending to the world that we believe a certain thing, that we feel a certain thing, that we want to do a certain thing, and actually inside our real self is screaming, that's not true, that's not what I think, that's not what I feel, that's not who I am. And again, because we are trying to fit in with what we perceive the external world wants us to be. And therefore we're not being true to ourselves. Again, we believe that we're not good enough. What's the solution? The solution is to find our courage. The solution is to become brave. The solution is to decide that who we are, what we believe, the life that we want to live, the life that we came to live, is the most important thing. And it is more important than trying to fit in or please other people, because time has shown and experience has shown that that will inevitably disappoint us and sadden us, restrict us, make us feel that we are living a lie. It will make us feel like we're living a sham. And inevitably when we're doing that, we feel not good enough. So that's the challenge, to have the courage to be who we came to be. And as I say those words, then there is another layer on top, which for me is a spiritual layer, which is we did come to be who we are. We came to work out who we are and to live that fully and gloriously, without apology, because the person we came to be has a unique gift to offer the world, which only we can offer. Nobody else has our particular DNA. Nobody else has walked in our shoes. Nobody else has been through what we have lived. Nobody else has been in our head or in our heart. Nobody else is the soul that we are. And so when we let a feeling of not being good enough overcome who we really are, then not only do we let ourselves down, because we will inevitably be unhappy and restricted and dumbed down, but we also let down the purpose and the path that we came to live. Gloriously and out loud, we actually hold back from living our path. And then that means that all those who are going to come across us and meet us and be opened up by us or influenced by us or challenged by us, they are then not going to have that experience. They are not going to have that wonderful, unique experience of coming up against the soul that is us. And so from a spiritual level also, it's to find the courage to be who we came to be and know that that path has so much importance and meaning, not only to us and to the universe, but to all those with whom we are going to come in contact in this incarnation, in this life. I've done a podcast called If You Have Forgotten How to Love Yourself, listen here, listen to this. And it's on Spotify. And if you haven't heard it and you'd like to hear more about this perspective, then it was written when I got a message from someone saying, "Dear therapist in my pocket, please can you tell me how to love myself? I hate myself. Please, please, will you help?" And I wrote a response, which I've now made into a podcast. So over on Spotify, Janny Judley, the therapist in my pocket, you will find If You Have Forgotten to Love Yourself, read this. And I hope that will help as well. So just for now, let's park that one. Let's just park that one for now. And let's move to another issue that people constantly ask me about, which is anger. Let's think about anger. When people tell me that they're struggling with anger and they ask me how I can help with that, what they're usually meaning, I think, is I get angry and I wish I didn't get angry. How do I stop being angry? Or they mean I get too angry, I get over the top. How do I not get over the top? How do I manage my anger more carefully? So let's have a think about anger, and let's think of first of all, what anger is. Anger is the energy inside us that says no. That's it. Anger is the energy inside us that says no. It says, no, this is not okay. It says, no, I don't want this. It says, no, you may not treat me this way. It says, no, I don't agree with you. I dissent. I think differently. Anger is our no. And anger escalates when our no is not heard, when our no is not recognized. And so those who ask, how do I manage my anger? How do I not be angry? It is actually a misunderstanding, I think, of what anger is. Because when we say, how do I not be angry? We're saying, how do I switch off the part of me that is guiding me to know what I want, what I think, what I feel? How do I switch off the part of me that wants to put boundaries in place? How do I do that? And of course, I can't say, yes, of course, I agree with you, you need to switch that part off. I have to say, maybe it's not so much about not being angry. Maybe it's more about listening to our anger. Maybe it's more about letting our anger inform us. Maybe it's more about knowing that our anger is one of the best friends we've got. And to listen to it is to honour our soul's purpose and our soul's signature. So it maybe isn't so much how to learn to not be angry. Maybe it's more about learning to be appropriately angry. Because sometimes if I will use the word annoyed or cross, it sounds easier to people. And they will be able to say, well, yes, I do feel annoyed, I do feel cross. But if I say angry, they often feel, no, I'm not angry. They will say, I'm frustrated. I get a bit cross sometimes. I get a bit upset sometimes. And it's all about seeing anger as something monstrous and destructive and unacceptable. So how do we do anger differently? Or we don't act anger out. I think when people talk about being frightened of their anger, they mean that their anger is uncontainable, and they might do something that they would regret. So they would do anger physically. Actually, we need to do anger verbally. We need to learn techniques to express our anger and then to stand by what we know our anger is telling us. So we need to be able to use the word no. We need to be able to say, please don't talk to me that way. We need to be able to say, I'm happy to listen, but not to be spoken to like that. We need to be able to say, no, I'm not prepared to do that. And to know that we have the right that our no be heard and respected and listened to. And that if it isn't, we simply repeat it. Do broken record. Just repeat it. Say the same thing again. No, I'm not prepared to do that. No, I'm not prepared to do that. If you can't hear me, I need to walk away. But that very mild but very firm and assertive statement is anger. That's anger in action. We don't need to manage our anger. We need to convert our anger into words and a message that empowers us and that makes people respect our boundaries and understand that we mean what we say. If we do have anger that feels out of control, it's probably either because we have learned that we have to put our anger away and it may not be spoken, or it's because our anger has been met with anger back and we have not been helped or shown a better way to express our anger or speak it, or we haven't even been led to believe that our anger might be heard. And sometimes that results in a tough decision, which is, if my no, which is my perfectly reasonable way of honouring my anger, is not being heard, is not being respected, and I've tried several times and in many different ways, do I stay? Do I stay? Or do I walk away from this because I don't see change happening? And again, we have that choice. So there's a theme, I think, going through the questions, because one was about not feeling good enough and the choice that that presents us with, which is either to be our own authentic self and walk our path and live our purpose and express our own unique soul signature and make nothing more important than that. Because if we do that, we will feel alive and we will feel good enough, because we won't be trying to suppress and put away who we really are. And that theme of expressing who we really are and what we really feel and living our soul signature to the fullest, being the soul, the unique soul that we came to be. Also, that theme is there in what I'm saying about anger. Anger is our no. Anger is our signal that something does not feel right, does not feel acceptable. So in both of those questions, the answer running through is the importance of being ourselves, the importance of honouring our own unique soul signature, and knowing that nothing is more important than living that, living the life we came to live, living as the being we came to be, and honouring our soul purpose and walking our soul path. And by doing that, giving the opportunity that every other soul who comes into contact with us has also come for, which is to meet us, to come up against us, to either be challenged by us or healed by us or softened by us or confused by us, but something by us, the soul we came to be. So a theme running through. And it's interesting, isn't it, that another question that came today, and I may not get through them all today, and I'm aware of that, but I will come back to those that I don't manage to touch on today. But because there is a theme, and the theme that I feel there is about our purpose, our soul signature, what makes us unique, then I think the third question that I want to go to is this. Someone wrote to me and said, you talk lots about oneness. In so many of your posts, you talk about oneness. What do you mean by oneness? And in some ways, my answer to that is very simple. And then I'll go to the more complicated part of it in a minute. But my initial answer to what do you mean by oneness is simply that I believe, both from experience and from my own path and search and journey, and also from the point of view of being an energy healer that experiences energy and works with energy, and quantum physics and all that quantum physics has to offer us as well, plus experiments that I have been involved in groups, into intention and the way that our beliefs influence reality, and that can be measured, and has been through many research projects. All that waffle is leading to the point that I'm going to make, which is, for me, oneness simply means that we are all the same energy. We are all fractals of the same energy. We are all unique sparks of the creative energy of the universe. Now, we call that energy by many names. We might call it spirit, we might call it God, we might call it the field, we might call it the universe. We call it by many words, and we hold slightly different concepts about it. But my sense of oneness, when I am in a place where I am spiritually attuned to what I believe is a high connection and an intense connection to the universe, my sense and belief and my experience is that everything is connected, everything is one. And so I am you, you are me. What I have known, you carry the knowledge of. What you have known and experienced, I carry the knowledge of. And therefore, when you look into the eyes of a stranger and you see the soul behind the eyes, and you see the smile, the spark, the recognition, and you think, yes, we are one. We are one. I see you and you see me. And in that moment, our souls touched in oneness. I had an experience about 5 years ago. I went to a cottage in Derbyshire with my partner, and as we drove up there, and it was the middle of winter and it was snowy, we didn't even know if we were going to make it there. We were slipping and sliding, driving up sort of an hour's drive in first or second gear. Excuse me. And we got to the cottage and it was really late and we were tired, and we went to bed. And in the darkness, excuse me, in the darkness, I started to feel the energy in the room shift, and it went higher and higher and higher. When I say higher and higher, I mean more and more joyful, almost ecstatic. You could feel the anticipation and the energy and the excitement in the room. Excuse me, hot chocolate is called for. Won't be a second. To the point where I found myself grinning from the energy that was there. And then as I started to grin, shafts of light from the right-hand corner of the ceiling suddenly darted across the room, and then another, white, yellow, blue, shafts of light. And we were terrified. We were under the covers thinking, what on earth is going on here? What on earth is this? Convinced we were going to die. And as we got frightened, more frightened, the lights died down, almost as if they were telling us. Now, I realise this might sound mad, but I am simply reporting. I am simply reporting an event. Almost as if we could feel that the lights didn't want to scare us, they wanted to communicate with us. And so as we got braver and we dared to look again, So the lights began again. Balls of light darting across the ceiling from one wall to the other, and we would say, "Oh, did you see that one? Whoa, did you see that? See that one? That one was blue." And it was amazing. It was like watching a light show. And at one point, I got out of bed and went to explore if there was any way that these lights were coming from something electrical or mechanical or something that was going on in the room. But the room was absolutely dark, except for the lights. And then at the end of the bed, we both saw a figure from floor to ceiling. From floor to ceiling, the tallest figure you have ever seen. And it was as if it had no feet. It was just energy. It was just energy. But somehow there was nothing frightening about it. And then everything calmed down. And the next morning when we woke, it was as if, and I've read this from other people as well, I've read this from other people that feel that they've had an awakening experience. Everything was different. Everything was, the colours were brighter. There were like crystal sparkles in the air. It's almost like you could see reality shimmering. You could see the energy that was reality. And the joy and the sense of everything being connected, everything being one. And the most profoundly beautiful, moving sense of being deeply and powerfully connected to everything. And simply being part of this amazing energy that was the universe. And that has never, ever left me. And it's at that point that I started to feel driven to write, to read, to explore, to walk a path that I would never in a million years have expected to walk. I'm a really private person, and suddenly I was on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, but I was driven by the desire to speak of these things, because it was the most profound, heart-opening experience. And so to go back to the question, can you say something about oneness? You talk about it in many of your posts. What do you mean by oneness? It's that sense of everything is connected. Everything is not just connected, but is of the highest. It is of the highest nature in terms of everything is love. It is love that connects the strands of the universe. And our highest nature is love. Our soul signature is love. And I think that the challenges of life make us forget that, make us fearful, make us angry, make us bitter sometimes, make us feel like we don't matter. And our challenge forever and always is to remember who we really are, to remember that we come from love, that we go back to love, that our purest essence is love, and that we come to follow this journey as a spiritual being, as a soul, in a body for a while, to experience what it is to be fully human, and to experience all the challenges that brings. The challenges to open our heart rather than close it down. The challenge to push through fear into compassion, to live the oneness that we truly are. And so when I talk about oneness, that's what I talk about, that's what I mean. I mean the way that you can walk through a forest and feel the energy of the trees and know that you are all, everything is connected. The DNA of God, spirit, the universe, the field, whatever you want to call it, that DNA is in everything. And there is so much more that connects and unites us than anything ever that separates us or makes us feel different from each other. So I suppose, do you see the theme that goes through everything, that goes through all the questions that we've been thinking about so far this evening? It is to do with the fact that we are a unique, unlike any other in the universe, unique soul come for a spiritual journey. Oh, that sounds lovely. Someone's just said, I had such a strong energetic experience that I lost the fear of death for good, I think. How wonderful. How wonderful. And isn't that such a beautiful thing? Isn't that such a beautiful thing when you realise your fear has gone and you know that it's okay? You just know that it's okay. And I think that's the secret. If we can get to that place, if we can push through fear and look back through our life and think, everything I've faced, when I look back, I didn't face it alone. And I don't mean other human beings. I mean, it's wonderful when we are held and supported by other human beings who love us and care about us, or sometimes total strangers we've never met before. That is a wonderful thing. But I'm also meaning beyond that as well. I'm meaning that we are loved and guided and supported by the most loving energy and guides that are not visible to us necessarily, although sometimes they are. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but many of us have. It's usually out of our peripheral vision where we see a flash of light or we see something moving and we realise that there's a light being there, and the light being is there beside us. And if we listen, they will guide us. If we listen, the path will become clear. We just have to trust and listen. And that's oneness. So when I talk about oneness, I mean that we walk our path accompanied by more loving energy than we can ever, any of us, fully imagine. And that we are never alone. And as you said, my friend, that there is no need to be afraid of death or of life. Because so many of us have learned to be afraid of life. Why would we be afraid of life when we know that we come from love and we go back to love? Sorry, somebody's saying the sound is weak. Is that because I'm not speaking loudly enough? You just give me if I talk louder like this, can you hear me now? You just give me a hands up or a wave. Are other people struggling to hear me? Okay. I'll try and talk like this. I didn't get the answer, but I'll see if raising my voice like this helps a little bit. Thank you, that's great, good. I will talk louder. To me it sounds like shouting, but clearly that's necessary to to help you to hear, so I'll raise my voice a bit. So I suppose everything that we've talked about, oh good, I'm glad you can hear me. Thanks for letting me know. Everything I've been sort of prompted to talk about tonight has fed in for me to the importance of being true to our soul signature, true to the essence we are, and to make let nothing be more important than that. Not only because that's when we will be happiest, and that's when we will feel like we are walking in tune with the universe, and that is a wonderful thing, but also because when we do that, we offer to others who are going to meet us on that path, we offer to them the experience that they need or that they came for, because I do believe we come to encounter other souls, either who will help us heal, or who will mirror a truth to us, or who will challenge us and make us grow in understanding and compassion, and reach a higher level still of the love that we truly are. And I call that remembering. I believe that we forget. And so when we come back to that sense of the love that we are, I call it remembering. I think we just simply remember that that's who we are in the first place. That's who we were. That's who we've remembered we are. And once we remember, then nothing is more important than living that soul signature. Nothing. Because we live life fully and on fire, and we feel that we're flowing with the universe, we're flowing with our truth, and nothing can be more important than that. So I guess there's time maybe for one more subject, and again it feels it feels connected, and that is, how do we cope with loneliness? Now, golly, through these times, these recent times, this past year, how many of us have struggled with a sense of isolation and loneliness, and worse, that we have actually loved and lost people, and we've known tragedy and suffering, and so this year particularly has been a year of feeling cut off and alone for many of us. And so I hear in that question, how can I feel safe and secure and content in my own company? I find myself having to spend a lot of time in my own company. How do I manage that when I have for so long needed the company of other people, or needed to lean on other people to complete me, to feel enough, to feel like I am not alone? And so if I may refer that question into the thread that's gone through everything we've talked about this evening, and if we go back to oneness, then I remember reading years ago somewhere that someone said that if we thought about alone as all one, then it feels slightly differently. It feels slightly different. So when we feel lonely or alone, we have actually forgotten that we are all one. we have forgotten that we can never be alone, that we never are alone. And I don't, when I say that, I don't I don't want to diminish, and I don't intend to diminish, the awful sense of being isolated and cut off from people that we love, or the awful desolation of losing a loved one, or simply feeling on the edge of society and different and alone. I don't mean to diminish that. I honour that as such a profound and difficult and important human experience. So I'm not diminishing that, but rather I'm saying that in reality, we are never alone. And the sense of that, the sense of being connected to everything, the sense that there is a message in everything, that this is a symbolic universe that is always talking to us, always showing up, always. Good night. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for joining. Good night. Sleep well. That this is a symbolic universe and that everything is connected, then we never do feel alone. We have to go inside and realise that the deeper we go inside, the more we actually expand out into the light that is the love that we all come from and are and belong to. And I had an experience, I've had the same experience several times, of going deep inside myself and feeling like I was in a cave, but that at the back of the cave there was an opening, and that I would go through that opening and it would open up into the brightest, most amazing landscape where the love was palpable. And there was such a sense of unity and safety and of being held. And I walk around knowing that that's inside me always. And so I think we can't deal with loneliness unless we allow ourselves to have times when we will go into a contemplative, reflective space and invite the universe, God, Spirit, whatever we call this creative energy that we all come from and are a part of, to invite that to make itself known to us, rather like I believe it did in that room in Derbyshire that I have described earlier this evening. If we look outside of ourselves, we can feel lonely and we can feel alone. If we instead open our heart to the energy that is within us and all around us, and of which everything is made, and we allow ourselves to really connect to that and feel it, then we feel full, in the flow, fully connected, and we don't feel alone. And so that's the practice I believe we have to encourage in ourselves. I know it feels scary sometimes. It feels scary to dare to feel alone. And often we will fill time, we'll keep ourselves busy, we'll do anything rather than allow ourselves to feel the connection that we could feel if we allowed ourselves just to empty our mind and feel instead the energy of all that we are, all that holds us, all that is around us. But that is the only way I know of feeling inside all one rather than alone. And so I'm aware of the time. I'm aware that we may well be coming up to a point where we've got to wrap up soon. And it's a really weird thing for me as a therapist to be talking to a screen, because all my working life is about talking to a human being who is there talking back to me. And I know that while you are talking to me in the messages that you're writing, and I thank you for that, and it's helpful. It guides me to know what to talk about and you know what you want to hear from me. But I think what I want to do now is to give you the opportunity to ask any questions arising out of what we've been talking about this evening, that you might like to ask, and I will do my best to answer them in the few minutes that we've got left. So is there anything that anybody would like to ask or to comment on at all from what we've been talking about? I'm just going to give you a minute or two, and it may be that it may be that we've done the talking that we need to do. Anything from anyone? Oh, you're very welcome for the light story. I hope it helped. I hope it helped. And if you have, you know, if you have a light story of your own, I would love for you to get in touch with me and let me know. I think there are many more of us that have had or are in the middle of such experiences right now. And I think there's something about COVID and lockdown that has forced us to focus on, I don't know, aspects of ourselves or ways of being that we would never have looked at or focused on until or before we were forced to withdraw from the world a little. There's been so much detail, so much busyness, so much distraction, and suddenly I am aware that so many people are having profound spiritual experiences. They may not call them that. There are many things we could call them, but points of reflection, points of contemplation, a sense that priorities are changing, a sense that what is important is coming more into focus. And I do think, and I have to believe that lots that's good and positive is there for the taking, and that we are being invited to reassess the way that the world has come to live. So yeah, no, you're welcome for the light story. And if you have one to share, please do tell me. And I'd very happily talk with you about that and do a live stream with you. If you would like to do that. I can see that a number of people have asked me if they could be in my video right now, and I think the problem is that I'm aware we're coming up to time, and also I do ask that if you'd like to share some screen time with me, you DM me and we talk about that first, just so that we're both clear about what we're going to talk about, and so that I can make sure I take care of you in the video as well, which feels very important to me. Therefore, it feels important that we just have that discussion first. Okay, we are really close to time, and last time I realised that this was happening, I kept on talking and the video just clicked out, and I had no opportunity to thank you for coming, thank you for your company, thank you that we've walked together for a while in the last hour, and I hope some of what we've said has been helpful, and I thank you for what you in that time have also shared with me and taught me. So for now, I'm going to say thank you for your company. Thank you for showing up. Stay kind. Stay blessed. In love and oneness. Bye for now.